wondered if purchasing into a franchise is right for you? Then you will appreciate Rick Morgin's consulting advice about starting up a franchise as he delivers tips to buying a fitness franchise this week on the Fitness Business Podcast. Calling all group fitness junkies. Did you by chance listen to show number 372 by Amy Nicotera? Well, you can't afford not to listen. If you ever had the idea about creating an online course for profit, then this is the episode that you must listen to immediately after this week's show. Amy will give you the ins and outs of getting your course accredited, setting up payment, and the lessons she learned along the way. Find time to listen. I promise you, your pocketbook will grow. And finally, the value you get from our episodes, we sure would be so grateful if you would post a review on iTunes. Hi, I'm your host, Dory Nugent, along with industry expert Rick Morgin. Rick is going to drill down the franchise process so you can make a wiser and more educated decision on purchasing a franchise. Rick is a franchise consultant with the Franchise Consulting Company, and he is here to share his tips on buying a fitness franchise. We will hear from today's guest in less than 2 minutes. First, a huge thank you to One Fit Stop for supporting our show.
One Fit Stop is modern fitness studio software built for the growing multi-location studio, providing scheduling, client management, programming, payment collection tools, and more that will set your business up to grow. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes.
Thank you, One Fit Stop. And Fitness Family, support our sponsor by visiting their website for more information. www.onefitstop.com.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are your 3 top tips someone should do before purchasing a franchise?
My first tip is candidates who are looking into franchising, become a franchise owner, work with a consultant. Find one that you trust and you can talk to and be open about. Let the consultant do the homework and that matching process for you, rather than you digging through the internet. Because the consultant should also have a very standard process that they can articulate, so you're not always wondering, what am I going to expect next, when it's time to move on to the next step. And a good franchise consultant will make sure that you're ready and comfortable and not kind of push or pull you. Second is have the motivation to research. That's not the third tip, but that's just, because I said research 3 times, but it's just the point of, in investigating franchising, you can get a tremendous amount of information at your fingertips, more so than researching an independent business. The franchising is a regulated business, so a lot of information is public. The franchise company has to, by law, disclose the business to you. They do that by sending you that franchise disclosure document. That's a legal document that has to be prepared. Every single franchise has to do it every single year. And next, the third point is, don't be afraid about talking about your fears in this whole process. Fear and anxiety is going to be normal, but being open and having that consultant be a good listener, perhaps there's some issues that can be talked through.
Next week, I interview the incredibly impressive Jeff Russo, and we talk about how to make $1 million in personal training revenue. That's a pretty big number. After this week's full interview, I'll introduce you to Jeff, and you'll hear why you need to come back to hear his interview.
At Discover Strength Franchising, we know you want to own a thriving fitness business. We believe you should be able to do work that you are passionate about while also making a great living. Imagine owning a distinguished fitness business backed by a market-tested business model where efficient 30-minute strength workouts are provided to your clients by expert, educated personal trainers. Here's how to get started. Head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com and fill out the contact form. Set up a pre-qualification call with our franchise team. Join us for a mutual discovery day. So head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com so you can start falling in love with your work again.
Let's transition into this week's interview with Rick Morgin. Fitness Business Podcast. Today's fitness expert is Rick Morgin, franchise consultant with the Franchise Consulting Company. Rick, I am so honored to have you here with us. First time guest. This is exciting.
You are right. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be on your podcast, Dory.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our listeners are going to love your topic, which is tips to buying a fitness franchise. You know, franchises, we all know, are kind of booming right now and kind of coming out of their sleepy state as people are feeling a little bit more confident with the fitness industry. So I'm sure your tips and your advice is going to be super helpful for everyone. All right, well, let's just get to it, right?
All right, let's go.
All right. So as I was saying, things are starting to become a little bit more, active in the fitness industry. People are having more confidence. So the fitness industry is now filled with franchises. How do you know if you are the right fit for a franchise and not someone who should run like an independent fitness facility?
Oh, I love that question because I think the first bit of advice is understand and accept the value proposition of franchising. So if you're looking at a fitness franchise, from the start of the look of the studio, the curriculum of the fitness exercise, the branding, the color, even the playlists are most likely going to be set and in a fashion where you just follow. You're implementing that successful, proven playbook. So if the fitness franchise designs a playlist that goes with the 6 different yoga fitness regimens and they keep it fresh, you have to be comfortable in following those type of execution, along with the marketing to gain membership, gain awareness of your location. Those are all elements of that operating and quote unquote playbook that you have to be comfortable in following. And if not, then perhaps franchising isn't, right for that person. Does that help?
It does help. And it does sound like there's a lot of bonuses to opening a franchise, because if you're new to owning a business, it sounds as if, and please, love to hear your opinion on this, sounds like there's at least somebody there to help guide you a little bit, like you said, with the marketing or maybe just color schemes or the layouts. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. There are fitness franchise organizations that each brand has a team, and they're there to support their franchises post-opening because they have to stay on top of the market and follow through with any changes within that particular modality of fitness. Mm-hmm. They're there to help you.
When choosing a franchise to buy, what should the franchisee look for?
The points I'm going to cover, I do talk about when I work with clients. But if someone were to investigate on their own, I would want to make sure that they know what the initial and ongoing investment is. What's the franchise fee? What are the ongoing fees? What's the range of that total investment? And it should be clearly articulated in the FDD and articulated well enough that if there are questions based on that range of cost to open, that franchise company can easily answer them. Plus, I think it's important to point out how long that franchise company has been selling franchises, because that is an indication of someone's tolerance for risk. Someone who is lower tolerance may want a lot of data points that they can validate. But with an emerging franchise, they may have just a handful open. So that may not be the appropriate franchise for someone who has a lower tolerance for risk because they're dealing with an emerging brand. How many units have the franchise company sold and open? It can be easy for a franchise company to get ahead of themselves and have sold a bunch, not opened very many. And now you're questioning what's happening there. Are they able to support their franchise family as I get ready to open? Are they going to be there? Next is, and I think this is probably the most important as someone really starts in that investigation process, does that franchise company have a clearly defined process to help you as a candidate understand their business model, get all your questions answered, and get you comfortable to the point where you're making that decision for yourself. If they don't have a clearly defined process and they can't state that up front when you first connect with them, then perhaps that's a reason not to work with them. And then finally, would you recommend this franchise to anyone in your family? That's a good indicator of whether it's something that you want to continue investigating or put a stop to.
And I love the part where you talked about, risk versus low risk. And I could see that being a difficult decision for somebody like me, because I would be like, not a risk taker, but yet some of the newer franchises are exciting. And what are some questions that I call them the franchisee, right? The person that wants to go into the franchise. What kind of questions should they be asking about the exit process? Do you have one or two that you could share with us?
Oh, sure. It's the common practice on exit is if I were to bring a candidate to a franchise that had an existing business that was being sold, I would introduce that candidate to the company, the franchise company. The company would then take them through an introduction to the company, history, and different aspects of the company, an overall viewpoint. Then they disclose disclose that candidate by providing them with a copy of that franchise disclosure document. After that franchise company then connects the seller to the prospective buyer. And from there, the conversations and eventual negotiation take place between the seller of that franchise and that buyer. The buyer can, doing their due diligence, ask a variety of questions, all the questions they want to understand the operations, ask for financial information, management P&Ls, and 3 years of tax return so that they can use their expertise or an advisor's expertise to provide their own valuation on the business and see how the two, see if they're close or they're far apart. If they're close enough to start a negotiation, then that's what happens. Buyer says, I think it's worth this. Here's my counteroffer to your opening offer. Well, that's a typical example.
Rick, I'd like to just dig a little bit deeper about the exiting of a franchise. What is a typical method of developing the sale price?
Typically, Dory, when a franchise, and it could be whether it's a single unit or multiple units, we're talking from the perspective of the franchisee, the franchise owner, that they've got a history of their profitability. So you can take an average of those three years. You can use the most current year. But based on the industry that franchise is in, there is a standard of applying that profit to a multiple to develop that offer price. Example, several years ago, I worked with a client who was interested in buying a portable storage business franchise. And the seller was producing about $700,000 in EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So kind of like a cash flow. And the standard was about 4 times that. So it was a $2.8 million offer price. Based on negotiation, it may have fluctuated between negotiation between the buyer and seller, but that industry average was 4 times. So 4 times the profit or the cash flow, the EBITDA. Now, if the particular franchise is a professional service franchise, a consulting, executive coaching, the usual multiple is 1 times revenue. So if it's $500,000 in revenue, the offer price is $500,000 for that book of business. So those are, and those valuations are, I gave you some very general examples, kind of like napkin math, but it's done in the same fashion as selling an independent business, a company's cash flow times an industry multiple. It can be aggressive on that, or it can be conservative on that. So that's I like that question because it kind of completes the picture of exiting the franchise from that franchisee standpoint.
So with you being our expert today in purchasing franchises and exiting franchises, I have a question for you. Do you tell your clients if you feel as if a specific franchise isn't a good fit for them?
When I get to the point of presenting business models or franchise business models to my clients, I have gathered enough information that and together we've built a business model. So when it's my turn to do homework, I'm not going to present to them franchises that may not be the right fit. So I go through a matching process. I'll start with what we're trying to get to, those longer-term personal financial goals. We'll talk about what they're trying to create as far as time and money, how they want to spend their day, types of employees they want to manage, whether it's a location or home-based. All of those things and are wrapped up into a business model. And from there, I try to match that to the best of my ability to the right industry and then the right franchise. Within that industry, in our portfolio, we may have several that I could talk to my client about. And from there, it's depending on what's available in that territory. In big markets that are rapidly growing within franchising, it could be Atlanta, Georgia. Some franchises may have sold out their territory. But fortunately, we have enough bench, as you may put it, that I can comfortably talk to them about a franchise in that industry that matches what they're trying to do.
Rick, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I'm just excited that we were able to finally connect and get you on here. Allison Flatley, I think, put us in contact with one another. She's one of our FPP fanatics. So I'm glad it all worked out.
Me too. I actually emailed her this week and let her know we're going to be doing it. And so she replied back, "Oh, I have to listen in." But it's me who should be thanking you, Dory, because this is a pleasure. It helps. I enjoy doing this, and you made me feel extremely comfortable. For any future guests that you have, they should know that they're going to feel relaxed and be able to answer all the questions you ask with ease. Hopefully I came across that way, and I appreciate it.
What a pleasure to have Rick Morgin from the Franchise Consulting Company on our show today. If you're looking to ask Rick a few more questions, his contact details are on the show notes, which can be seen at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Or when you subscribe to our amazingly informative show notes, they are emailed directly to you. Subscribe to the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. In 30 seconds, I'll introduce you to our extremely knowledgeable guest, Jeff Russo, who will be our industry expert for next week's episode.
Professional facilitation with a group of non-competing owners to stay ahead of the industry curve is the USP of Rex Roundtables. To find your local roundtable, go to rexroundtables.com. That's rexroundtables.com.
Quickfire 5.
FBP family, put your hands together and welcome Jeff Russo, creator and co-owner of Pro Fitness Programs. Jeff is going to tell us why you need to come back next week to listen to his episode. Today we have Jeff Russo, creator and co-owner of Pro Fitness Program, which is a fitness business consulting company specializing in personal training sales. Jeff, I'm excited to have you here for our quick fire 5 questions.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here too. And as well, Dorian, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
You got it. Let's go with number 1 right out of the gate. What is a life lesson you learned from the pandemic?
Well, I think the biggest lesson for me is I've got to continue to fight the battle to be too busy, too overscheduled. I don't want to just jump back in on the treadmill of life. So I think for me, it's been great. I've spent a lot of time with family and friends and loved ones. And I want to continue to stay in the present, in the moment, and just simplify and enjoy the little things in life with loved ones. So that's going to be important for me to continue on. It's been a great lesson that I've learned.
Perfect. And number 2, if you could play a character in any movie, what character would it be?
Well, you're going to get a kick out of this one. I would love to play the life of Elvis Presley because, in my opinion, the most charismatic, entertaining, and influential entertainer of this century, probably the biggest pop culture icon of the 21st century. And why it's important to me is I'm a musical guy. So I've played guitar, written vocals. I've been in a band. From the time I was really young, I started to perform Elvis Presley shows. I had a passion for his music. And what's interesting is my 17-year-old son, Connor, now is the #1 Elvis youth tribute artist in all of North America. I'm going to do a little plug for him, ConnorRusso.com. But he's phenomenal. And for Justin out there from Australia, I don't know if you guys know this, but one of the biggest Elvis movies just wrapped up in Australia. And Tom Hanks is playing Colonel Tom Parker's manager. So I would have loved to be in that movie, but I don't think I'm good enough or tall enough, good enough looking or tall enough to pull it off. But it would be a blast.
Oh my goodness. I could spend 10 minutes on that one there, like with rebuttals, but I'm just going to move on to question number 3. I love it. Please complete this statement. Sunday morning, you can find me.
You can find me. Well, let's talk pre and post pandemic really quickly. Pre-pandemic, probably with my family at church, or a few years ago, leading a home church. In fact, I was going to be doing a master's in theological studies at Tyndale Seminar up here in Toronto, Canada. So I'm passionate about my faith. Post-pandemic, probably a little bit of virtual church. And then on days not at church, I'm on my road bike or my gravel bike pounding away the kilometers. I started April 15th because I'm up here in Toronto, Canada, cold winters. But since April 15th, I've blasted off almost 2,000 kilometers. And I feel like I love being in the moment, talking about being in the moment before, feeling totally free. And I'm not going to lie to you. Probably a lot of these people listening in the fitness industry are like me. Whether it's in the bike or in the gym, I like to suffer. I'm not the type of guy that'll sit in the beach and relax. So even at my age, I got to keep pushing.
Okay, perfect. So when you do relax, what is one book that you could recommend all of our FPP family to read?
Okay, I was really thinking about this, and it's got to be 2. So for those of you who want sales training and the best sales book around right now, definitely Spin Selling, SPIN by Neil Rackham. Great. But speaking about pop culture icons, I just talked about, Elvis, one of my favorite books of all time, both from a historical and entertainment value. You're going to love this. The title is Gorgeous George, and the subtitle is The Outrageous Bad Boy Who Created American Pop Culture. So this guy was basically the first TV celebrity that taught the world how to create a character and a brand. So Muhammad Ali, James Brown, Liberace, Bob Dylan, Elvis were all influenced. This guy was a professional wrestler. He was the first television star. And if you want to read about the origins of all American pop culture, you've got to read this book. And by the way, people who are listening, I wanted to be a pro wrestler growing up. I wanted to use that as a platform to get into acting in movies like John Cena and The Rock. But hey, that didn't work out either, but that's the one I would probably admit. And it worked out for my daughter, Sydney. She's an actress. She's got an agent now, and she probably took after that. So there you go.
Wow. You're going to just have to live your dream through your kids, it sounds like. So pretty awesome. All right.
You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, last but not least, here is your chance to pitch to our FBP family why they should come back next week to listen to your episode.
Well, first of all, they're going to hear from a guy who wanted to play Elvis, be a professional wrestler, an actor and musician, and that guy is going to teach him how to make $1 million a year in more in one-to-one personal training. Secondly, I've been doing it for over 30 years with hundreds, me and my team, obviously, of business consultants with hundreds of independent fitness clubs across North America. And I've worked in every single position, starting way back then, from being a personal trainer, fitness director, to sales and management, to even club ownership. So that's why I think they want to tune in. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be educational. And you're going to learn how to be super successful in growing your PT department.
Well, you know what? You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to kind of follow up by saying, I have a feeling your episode is going to be entertaining as well as educational. So we can't wait. Next week, everybody listening, come on back for Jeff Russo as he talks about how to make $1 million in personal training in your business. If it's time for your personal training department to have a money makeover, then you will enjoy next week's show as Jeff Russo shares how to make $1 million in personal training in your business. So make sure you subscribe to our show notes on your favorite podcast player, or even better yet, let us do the work for you and we'll send you the show. Subscribe at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. The countdown is on. The URSA 2021 conference is coming to the gorgeous city of Dallas, Texas. The conference will be held on October 13th through the 15th. It is going to be so great to get together again as an industry. And did you check out the guest lineup? Any of the names look familiar? That's because many of the presenters have been some of your favorite guests on the Fitness Business Podcast. So make sure you check them out. www.ursa.org. Thank you to our founding partner, Active Management. Our partners, Keep Me, MyZone, Discover Strength, Tribe Team Training, and One Fit Stop. Our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, MX Metrics, and Vapor Fresh. We believe what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but woven into the lives of others.